Hello and welcome. You're listening to the Bump Podcast, a place for the believers of the unexplained, monsters, and paranormal. Join us, and we'll go face to face with what goes bump in the night. Hey there, believers. I got a great episode for you this evening. Tonight, I am bringing on Shae. She reached out to me on Instagram with some photos that absolutely blew my mind. I had seen them making rounds for a day or two, these pictures. And then when I got them in my inbox, I was like, wow, awesome. Thank the Lord. I get to talk to this lady. She is a photographer, and apparently she was going out somewhere. I don't know if she was going to do some nature shots or if she had a session planned or what, but what she got on camera looks to me like it's a flying cryptid. I don't know if it's a pterodactyl, a thunderbird, just a really perfectly timed and just odd photo. But then she starts sending me these video clips. She got this thing. She's got it flying. She's got tons of evidence, and it does not look to me like anything that I've seen in the skies. It doesn't look like a bug that's just too close to the camera that gives off this visual that it's giant. I'm no video analysis expert, and I want to believe all kinds of stuff. But if the screen share works, I'm going to show you guys here on YouTube too. Well, she will. She'll show y'all. Phenomenal. Oh, I can't wait. Let's go ahead and bring her on. But not only that, she is like a professional photographer, and I think it's called like Shae photography on Instagram. Super creepy, super cool, very stylized. She got her own thing going, and it looks good. And she called herself the Conspiracy Bay on there, or somebody else called her that. It's in the description. So she gets into conspiracy. Maybe we'll get into that direction as well. But my intention is to figure out what she thinks she recorded that day. All right. Now, if you want to support the show, the best way to do that would be buymeacoffee.com/the bump podcast. Any and all donations are greatly appreciated, especially this summer. I thought I had everything set for us to take a good vacation, go down to Panama City this year, and then bam, I found out my compressor is out for my AC unit, and I'm looking at close to $3,000 that I'm going to have to come up with, or we are just going to sit here and melt with some box fans. So all donations are appreciated. Oh, but seriously, most, if not all, of what comes in will find its way back to the show. I like to go out and do a couple of events. It helps with that. I got new equipment this year. It helps with that. And it goes a long way. I don't put anything behind a paywall. I don't ask for membership money or anything like that. I could be making much more at this point, but for me, I don't feel led to do that. In fact, I feel led not to do that. I feel, as far as memberships and paywalls, I feel like the content that comes in, I'm being obedient with, and that you shouldn't charge for for doing your job. And I feel like this is like what I'm supposed to be doing right now. Now down the road, yeah, maybe there'll be something extra. Maybe we'll do something, with maybe I'll collaborate with somebody else and we'll do something big and we can put it up for, rent or purchase or pay walls or whatever then. But as of now, everything's to you for free. So um, that appreciation of contributions with donations, it means the world to me. But sharing the show, leaving 5-star ratings and reviews, um, giving feedback on Spotify about what you think about the episodes, that stuff, that just touches my heart, you know. And if this show has helped you in your journey as far as getting to know Jesus or helping you get back into your Bible, or understanding your Bible or whatever, let me know. I've been blessed with a lot of emails, and a lot of people have reached out over the last 4 years, and it means everything. That's what it's all about, right? All right, before I get sappy, let's bring on Alex Shae. All right, Shay, welcome to the show. Thanks again for coming on. It's exciting because, like I said in the pre-intro, I got to see these photos, a couple of them, float around on like Instagram and stuff for about a day before I saw it on my inbox, and I got so excited because I thought,
Oh, really?
yes,
That's awesome.
I think Tony shared it on the confessionals, like to
Yes,
their
he
page,
did. Yes.
and I saw that and I thought, oh, this is something for
Do you know
real.
who
And then
Darcy
like,
is?
he messaged me. I was so happy.
Darcy, I don't know how to pronounce it, but I think it's Darcy Wire.
Yeah,
He
Darcy
said,
Weir, I think.
Darcy Weir, thank you. Okay. He messaged me and he goes, "Hey, my friend Tony just posted your video of your pictures." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." I was freaking out. I was so excited.
It's fun. So tell me about this. What are we going to look at here, and like walk me through what happened, because I've I've seen people's opinions about what this was, from it being a bug too close to the camera to whatever, a bird. But this is something wild. Like this is,
Let's pull this up first so that we can
yeah,
just show everybody. So
yes.
this is a very zoomed in uh shot of it. So before we get into everything, I just want everyone to know that this picture that I have and then another flying creature picture that I have are both caught with a live photo. So when I was taking the picture of this field, I was just taking it as a picture. And I had taken one and then I had taken another. And just coincidentally, I go home after I had taken the picture and not noticed that I had even captured anything. So then when I go home and I'm looking back on my photos and I'm posting me and my son's trail walk, I'm like, what is that big black spot in the middle of that picture? Because I was trying to figure out which one I was going to post. They both look very similar, but I'm like, there's something really weird in that picture. And I'm not joking you. I just zoom in and keep zooming in. And I'm like, and I'm looking at this and I'm sitting here going, okay, that is like a bat, has to be a bat. And if it is a bat, that's like the biggest bat I've ever seen in Missouri because
Yeah,
I've never
yeah,
seen a
for
bat
real.
that big. Um, but we had also had other experiences at the same trail right after I had taken the pictures. So looking back on it, it was kind of even more creepy that I found that because me and my son had already had an experience with another cryptid. So finding that in the pictures was like just crazy. And the thing is, people are all upset. They're like, "Oh, professional photographer took these, and we can't get a better picture." Okay, well, first off, I am a professional photographer, a freelance photographer, but I've been self-taught my whole life. But I shoot with a Canon. But this was just me going out on a trail walk with my son, And
Yeah.
he's always telling me, like, Mom, can you please stop taking pictures? Can you just enjoy the nature walk? And I'm like, but I love taking pictures. I can't not take pictures, even if it's with an iPhone 10. So I'm just always taking pictures of everything. That's how I've been my whole life. So, and then naturally, I'm a photographer. So that's just who I am. And so to tell you kind of what happened, we kind of have to go back a little bit, but me and my kids have gone on these trail walks for so many times. Mostly me and my 13-year-old son, we go on trail walks, and it's out of the same park, but there's several of them. And we had gone on one, and we had a very very strange experience, and we can talk about that later after I tell you about these, because another gentleman had a very similar experience in the park that I didn't know about until after I had my experience. And so, anyways, we kind of were like, let's not go on that trail anymore for a little bit. Let's try a different trail. There's about 5 different trails out there, and me and my 4 kids are walking on this trail, and we love the turkey out there. And me and my son have this weird love for this turkey out there, and we call him Jerry. And Jerry is like our turkey, our guy. We've been seeing him, and it's turkey season, they're coming and all that. So it's to be expected. But this time we were with all the kids, and my 2 daughters and my youngest hadn't seen the turkey yet. So the kids were kind of running ahead and so excited about Jerry the turkey, and they got to see him, and he runs off, and then my 2 oldest start running down the trail that we had gone on. And there's this big opening space, and then the trail kind of leads on, and you can tell which paths are gone down a lot and which ones aren't because of how overgrown the trail actually is. So this one wasn't as bad as the other one that I'm going to tell you about, but you could still tell that it wasn't as heavily trafficked as other trails that we've been on. And so my 2 oldest are running, and they're having a good time. Well, this bee comes up and kind of scares them. And so they ran back. And as they're running back, we're standing all together, and they're like, oh my gosh, a bee. We're done. We're done with this trail. We got to get out of here. And as soon as they said that, we're standing there, and we hear a monkey sound. And my youngest daughter, who's 8, she said, that was a monkey. And I said, yeah, yeah, that was a monkey. And I'm trying to process it in the moment, but I could tell that it's coming from the bush. Then there's this big area of bush in front of us. And after the monkey sound, we hear a creaking door. And now I know there's a lot of people that are going to say, okay, the trees, they have this new thing where scientific studies are showing that trees make creaking noises. It's them moving, stuff like that. I can understand that. What I personally thought was maybe it was a bird, because I have also heard that birds can make creaking door noises.
Hmm.
But when I tell you that it sounded like a door was opening and creaking, I mean, the kids immediately were like, what? How did that sound happen in the woods? So we're trying to figure out where the monkey sound's coming from, for one. We're puzzled by that. And then this creaking door noise. Well, the creaking door noise stays in the same spot. It doesn't move. But this monkey sound, I'm talking to it and I'm saying, hey, can you do that again? And it would do it again. And it
Hmm.
was kind of talking to us in a way, I guess. But and then I didn't know if it was talking to the creaking door noise, but we could hear it moving in the bushes. It was like it was walking with us. But then once my son said, Mom, you need to pull your phone out and start recording, then the sound stopped. And I went back and tried to look to see if there was anything. I couldn't find anything. Thought it was very a strange experience, so I thought I needed to call the park and tell them that you have monkey sounds in your forest, and
Right.
if there's private property of people who own private property around you, and maybe there could possibly be people who own exotic animals, and I'm not saying that it did or didn't get loose, but that's a possibility. But it was a clear distinct monkey sound, and I told the lady, I think people should you should be aware of that if there's something like that in your park. um And I just thought it was strange. And she said, well, birds can make lots of different sounds. And it was probably a bird that you heard. And I said, okay. She laughed at me. She really did. She thought she said, oh no, no one has ever reported that there's ever been a monkey sound in this park. And I said, okay, that's fine. I said, I just thought you guys might want to know because, I've seen Tiger King, I've seen all kinds of things, and
Right.
there's the possibilities are out there, whether it's mythical or not. There's possibilities for everything. So I thought that was strange, but I didn't want to, think too much of it. But you just try to rationalize everything that you can. And you're like, okay, maybe she's right. Maybe it was a bird. I don't know. Maybe it was two birds talking to each other. And one sounds like a creaking door and one sounds like a monkey. But in my head, I'm like, that doesn't make sense to me. And
No.
then it was responding, and I remember Arya going, it was talking to you, and I thought, yeah, it kind of was, like, it was responding when I would say something, because I
Oh,
was trying to mimic the noises that it was making. I'll have to send you the video because it's funny. We're all making monkey noises at this bush because we were trying to get it to do it again, but it wouldn't do it. So anyways, fast forward, we go on Mother's Day to the same park, but where we went, the kids like this spot where right before you enter the park, there's this sign, and there's a little bit of a parking area, so people can park and they can go run the whole park. It's kind of dangerous, but there's like a main road that goes all the way down to a dead end, so people can go all the way down there, run all the way down there, and run all the way back, and it's pretty good distance. But if you go behind the sign and you go through this little trail, you go into this opening of trees, and it's all these trees lined up, and they're huge, they're ginormous, and it's beautiful. And so many photographers take people. That's how I found out about it. That little area is because a photographer took me there one time. Was like, you have to come out here. It's amazing. And every time I've gone out there, there's these um, like teepees made out of wood sticks, but not like small sticks. They're huge.
yeah.
I don't know if I have that saved. I don't think I saved that, but I'll have to send that to you. Um, they've been there forever, but I think a lot of people think people just make them and that they're just there, but I don't honestly know who makes them, but I've remembered them being there for the longest time. And it's in a certain part of the park where I feel like if it was made by somebody, it's almost like this is where you don't go past. This is where you stop kind of. That's kind of what it feels like. It's like
Hmm.
feels very sacred. It's a weird thing, but it starts out really small, and then this they end up turning into basically like tree trunks at the top of this teepee thing. But anyways, we're out there, we're just hanging out. All my kids are they're really into all this stuff too, just probably because I am. But my daughter was making this little thing. She spelled Bigfoot out of sticks. And she also made a little teepee, kind of like the other one, because they're just mimicking what they see. So they're
Right.
making these cute little teepees. And she made this little sign that said Bigfoot. And um, Xavier went to go walk by the teepee, and for whatever reason, I just had this really weird feeling where I was like, Xavier, I don't think that you should walk over there. I don't know why, but something's just telling me like you shouldn't go over there right now, and I don't know why, but why don't you just come back over here and stay by me? And as soon as I said that, this huge branch, and I don't mean a stick, this huge branch, it didn't fall down, it came flying like out of the brush. And the girls were like, oh my God, mom, did you see that? And I was like, no, I didn't. Cause I turned around to go look at Xavier to tell him to not go over there. Um, and the girls are like, something threw that stick. And I was like, yeah. And that wasn't a little one. Like it crashed. It was coming through the
Wow.
tree. So I thought that was kind of strange, but also I just was like, maybe it did. Maybe it just fell out of the tree, whatnot. I just put it in the back of my head, and we just had another day at the park. So then I'm at work one day and it starts raining and it's thundering, it's storming. I'm kind of upset because I'm like, oh no, we can't go on a nature walk. And my friend's like, oh, it's supposed to stop at like 5. You should be fine. Um, it'll stop raining, so at least you could still go. And I was like, yeah, you know what, you're right. Me and my son, we said that we were gonna go on a nature walk, so we're gonna go. And so we go, and it's pretty muddy. We were walking on that trail that I had told you about where the trees were. And I had forgot to mention that when we had went before, I don't think it was Mother's Day, but it was another day. That footprint that I sent you.
Yes,
I don't remember if you remember that. I think I saved it and I can show everybody.
absolutely.
Um, we found that footprint, and
Yeah. I hope
I
you saved it.
I know, I hope I did too. I thought I did, but I can't remember if I did. And if I can,
It's on
I know
my
it's in my email.
Instagram.
No, it's in my email real quick, and it's okay if I don't mind on this. I sent it to that winged creature lady. Um, oh shoot. I hope I can find it because it's a really good one. But anyways, we found that footprint, and it was honestly, I've never seen anything like that. And
Yeah,
I've listened to, oh, here it is. I've listened to a lot of what I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I make dentures for a living, and we just put in headphones and we just do our work. And
sweet.
I listen to 30 plus hours of people's research and everything that they do. And what made me stop and look at this, well, for one, it's very odd that in we're about halfway on this little trail, and the first part of this trail is very small. It's just kind of like a little loop. And then it becomes a fork, and then you can go off. And that's where we went to finish the trail. That's where I got the winged creature. But when we're on this trail, we're walking, and there's nothing around. And I don't remember if I had a video of this or not, but it's just going straight forward. So it's going with the path. Um, and but first off, it's barefoot. So that was odd because I'm like, who's running around out here with their bare feet? And then me and my daughters were looking at it even closer, and then I was like, do you see another one? Is there any, it's not like, say it was 1 foot and then into the grass, like say someone stepped in the middle of the trail and then walked to the other side. It wasn't like that. This is going with the trail. It appeared like the person was running, but I don't I don't know that now that I'm like thinking about it, but I think the weight of the person was just so heavy that you can see where the big toe is, where the mud comes up. It
Yeah,
was pressed down pretty good because my daughter's like, it looks like the person was running, and it looks like they just stomped 1 foot down. But she's like, but where's where's the other feet? There wasn't, two. It was just
Y-
one bare footprint in the middle of this trail. I
yeah,
thought that was strange.
yeah. So, like, for people that are listening and not watching it on YouTube, this is it looks extremely long. I don't know how long it was in person, but it's very narrow.
Mhm. I would say it seemed like I don't want to say average, but it didn't seem extremely large. But like you said, it's very um, narrow, and
And
there's absolutely zero arch. There is no. It is completely flat-footed. There is
yeah,
not one bit of anything
but
in
it's
that foot.
you can see a heavy impression at the heel and a heavy impression at the big toe.
Mhm.
So it looks like, yeah, it's maybe struck the heel, pushed off on the toe, and
And I don't know how many footprints you've looked at. I personally, it's a bummer sometimes when I'm listening to documentaries because
yeah,
when I'm at work, because I can't see everybody's evidence. But from what I can see, like there's grass that's over it. So I don't know how long it was there. But I
right.
do know I went back when the thunderstorm happened. I don't know if I sent that picture to you too, but there's one where it's like a puddle. Like that's when I knew, I was like, that is deep, because it wasn't just like a person stepped on it and they left a tiny impression of their shoe.
Right.
Like this was like legit, someone's foot was deep in the mud.
Yeah,
not, not
and that big toe goes forward, but the rest look like they're splayed out, like they would go to the right, but
I've
they're
also heard in my research, and this is just a theory, and I know there's a million of them out there, but someone had said something about how when their hair's long, that sometimes it'll like
Yeah.
does that make sense? You get what I'm saying? Like it'll like overlap over their
Yeah.
toes. I don't know. The toes seemed weird to begin with. It almost seemed like they didn't have any toes.
Yeah. Yeah. It almost looks chopped
But
off,
I
but
don't know how to, yeah.
there could have been something laying there that was removed since, because this, like you said, there's grass and stuff over the footprint. Like it's been there for a minute.
Mhm.
Maybe there was a stick there and it
And I
picked up
do
that.
have other ones that I will send to you after we do this because
Yeah.
I don't know tracks very well. I'm trying to learn. I'm teaching myself. I'm going to nature centers and learning from people, like conservation people. But um, there's some that I've taken. There was one that we met these two gentlemen on this trail one time out at Monkey Mountain, and that's what it's called, Monkey Mountain. Um, it's another place I've had experiences at, but I showed him I said, man, I found a bunch of bones, which I'll show you those. I said, I found a bunch of bones and I thought that was kind of weird. And then I found the footprints. I don't know if you've ever seen like tree. Does that look like someone twisted those?
Oh wow.
That was at the trail where I found the bones, and I found a couple of footprints. Um, where's the other? Um, like there's a tree marker that I've found before.
Yeah, that's a good example of one.
Um,
There's the bones.
there's the bones. So I'm not a bone analyst or anything, but I had heard before, and I've heard with the Dogman cryptid, and I've heard with Sasquatch, but like bones, it's mainly with Dogman, I guess. But having like finding pits of bones and stuff like that, and I remember walking on this trail and telling my son because it's not very well. It's not a lot of people go out there to hike. I'll just say that. People don't go out there and like, I'm going to go to Monkey Mountain and I'm going to go hiking. It's mainly for people who want to go horse trailing. So it's a horse trail type environment because it's steep. Like me and my son tried to climb to the top and we did go. I don't think we went all the way up to the top, but we went pretty high. He's like, see, aren't you glad we went all the way up here? It was beautiful. And it was, but it's steep. So unless you're like a really avid hiker, most people are doing horse trails out there. So you see a lot of horse tracks out there. But I found some very strange tracks out there that I cannot explain. Um, Also on the trail, the same trail where the footprint, I found what I think could possibly be either bear scat or Sasquatch scat. And if it is bear scat, then I do want to tell the conservation because uh, most recently in Pleasant Hill, and I don't know how long ago it was, but it was very recent. A black bear was spotted in Pleasant Hill, Missouri. So it is a possibility that this
Right.
could be bear scat. But what I do want to say is I'll show, I can, I don't know if we can do videos on here, but we walked upon it and it's just in the middle of the trail. So it wasn't like I found this off, in the grass or anywhere. I don't know how to explain it, but this is the size of it compared to turkey. So it's
Yeah.
big. It's
Yeah.
not small.
Yeah, it's
Um,
definitely big. And it,
and
you
look
know,
at the berries. It's just nothing but berries, to
yeah,
be honest. And it looked like matted hair, that also.
yeah, it does.
Um, but what I will tell you is when we're walking up, my son's like, you need to record everything, because when I tell you about the experience that we had after I took that picture of the winged creature, but my son's like, you need to be recording everything because something's going to happen and you're going to record it. You're going to get it because I've already gotten other things before, but just didn't think it was great until I got the winged creature one. But this was just so strange because we're walking and I'm talking to my daughters and I said, oh my goodness, girls, I think there's a dead bird up here. it was in the middle of the trail. Just it was almost like it was put there for me or
Hmm.
something. I know that sounds very strange to say that, but it was just right there in the middle of the trail. And what I thought was a dead bird was actually two monarch butterflies that were sitting on top of it, and I thought that was the bird legs.
Yeah.
And so when we walk up on it, I'm like, "What is that?" And you hear me in the video going, "What in the world?" And the butterflies fly away. And then I was like, "Wait a second." And my daughter goes, "That's poop." And I said, "Poop? What kind of poop?" She goes, "Sasquatch poop." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." I was like, "Are you serious? You really think that I was like, "That is pretty big." And then I
Yeah.
was like, what is in it?" She's like, "That looks like berries, mom." And I was like, "Okay, that is very big. And if there are bears out there and there's people just walking on these trails, I think I mean, I feel like either one's important. Obviously, Sasquatch, I'm team Sasquatch, but I'm like, if it's a bear, I feel like people need to know if you're walking out at a trail in a very populated area, that you should know that there's a large black bear just taking its business on the trail that people walk on. I
Yeah.
mean, does that make sense? I don't
And,
know. I just think that's
and
so crazy. The things
that
that I keep
does
getting.
that does look like bear poop to me.
Okay,
Uh,
because that's the only thing that I can compare it to when I Google any type of scat. And that's why I
yeah.
took a compare. I told Aaliyah, my daughter, I said, I'm taking a picture of the turkey because I want people to be able to see how big it is.
Well,
It's not
here's the thing
small.
though. At after and I know it sounds like I know a lot about poop, but I worked with
I know, I feel so funny talking about this, but
it's okay. I worked in a
it's real
wildlife
evidence.
exhibit.
I
I
would
ran a
rather be crazy and collect this and try to do what I can and it not be than not collect it and then it was and then I was the person that had Sasquatch poop. Like I know that
yeah,
sounds really silly to say that,
yeah.
but
But look, I worked in a wildlife exhibit for like 4 years
okay.
at a state park, and I cleaned up after wild boars and black bears and bobcats and all that. I kept their enclosures clean. Um, so it does highly resemble like black bear,
Okay.
but after a couple of days, especially if it would rain or anything like that, it would kind of degrade. So this could have been formed a little differently. And if it's been rained on or out and exposed, and butterflies are gross, gross creatures. I don't know if anybody knows that. Butterflies will get on poop like crazy, like whole
I feel
swarms.
like everyone knows that flies are like that, but maybe people don't know about the butterflies, but
Yeah.
I feel like they're the same.
Yeah, they're gross.
Yeah.
But
I was shocked. I mean, in the video you can tell I go through all these like different phases of oh my gosh, it's a dead bird to oh wait, what is that? And then oh my gosh, that's poop. And it was
yeah.
like all these different phases of what is this?
Yeah, and if it had a different structure before all this degrading happened to it, it maybe it was Sasquatch poop. But regardless, I think it's really important, and I agree with you that it's a good thing to go ahead and get the photos, to have it on hand just in case.
I agree. I agree. Okay, so the same trail. I'm gonna pull up this picture because
It's
when we went out on that trail, so we went the same route and I took the picture of the footprint. Um, and what me and my oldest son do is when we go on a new trail before the younger kids go, we go first. So we will take the route first, check out the trail, make sure that we understand, the trail, um, so that when we go with them that we're not surprised or it's not unsafe or whatnot. So basically we check the trails before I take all four of them out with me. So when the fort came, you could go left and go back to that main entrance area, or you could go right. So we went right. When you go right, um, kind of go down a little bit of a walkways, and there's this large tree, and then next to the large tree is this big open area. I wonder if I have, here we go. So this is, I think this is a video, but you can kind of get an idea of the trees and like that open grass area. And it's really tall, and you can tell in this picture how it's laid down, but it is very tall grass. And I've seen on the Limestone Trail, the Bethany Falls Trail at the very end of this park, I've seen weird grass impressions before. And my son, of course, is always like, "You overanalyze everything, mom. Stop thinking everything's something weird." But I was just like, "Don't you think that's strange?" I said, if there was like a gator, which I don't know if a lot of people know what in Missouri we call them gators, but the little things that you drive around on your property,
Yeah, yeah.
they drive those around out there. And I will tell you this, when I called and reported this winged creature to them, and I went out the next day after I reported it, they had that gator out running around that whole area where I
Guarantee
had,
it.
they knew exactly where it was because I sent the pictures. So they actually ran over the footprint, which I don't think they meant to, but because I was going to see how long the footprint stayed.
Huh.
But we had tried to go back and find the footprint again, but they had ran it over. But anyways, so I had seen laid down grass before out there, and I thought it was strange, but I never really put two and two together because I'm into everything. So crop circles, whatnot. I have so much stuff logged in my head of weird random stories that people have said in documentaries. And in this moment, I had remembered a crop circle documentary that I had watched. And for whatever reason, my son was already in the grass, and we were trying to figure out how this grass was laid down like this. And I told him, I said, "Can you see anywhere at all where anyone has drove over this, where anyone has done anything?" And it had rained, like I told you, a big thunderstorm. Um, and he's looking up at the tree, and he's like, "Well, maybe the tree, maybe when it rained, it did something." And I'm like, "You are just as bad as those people on the crop circle documentaries that talk about how there's these people that say porcupines mating makes crop circles." I'm like,
Right.
that, that's a good guess, but I'm like, but I don't see how the rain could, if it would have done that, it would have done it to the whole field. It wouldn't have just done it to this specific area. But I kid you not, when I walked on it, I instantly remember what that lady said in that documentary. And she had said that when they had walked into certain crop circles and their like geometry, they figure them I can't say the word, but geometrically, they figure
Mhm.
it out where there's certain numbers. So certain crop circles are even, certain ones are odds. And she basically said that one or the other gives you a good feeling when you're inside the circle, and another one gives you a not so good feeling when you're inside the circle. So
Really?
she's basically saying like the even ones you felt not so good in it, and the odd number shaped crop circles you felt a good vibration inside of. Well, I had remembered that in the instant that I stepped on that, and for whatever reason I remember thinking I shouldn't have done that. That wasn't good. I didn't like that. But I still remember thinking, okay, I've already stepped on it. I might as well take a picture of it. And I'm really, really glad that I did, because now looking back on it, I took it for a reason. What I see is two wings. And in further analysis of the picture, because I've just been obsessed with it, is the what I consider and what my thoughts are is that that hole right there, there's two of them, but it looks like where a beak could have been puncturing into the grass, if that makes sense. It's
Yeah.
almost like they put their beak in and their wings came down as if they were trying to take off. Now I'm going to tell you, when I took the pictures, I didn't hear anything. And it was really windy because it had been storming. So did I not hear the flapping of the thing because it was so fast? Did I not hear it because it's just silent because it is so fast? Did I not hear it because of the wind? I don't know. But all I know is we walked around. I took those pictures of that grass. My son is telling me, stop taking pictures, stop taking pictures. I take those two pictures that capture the winged creature, this one, where'd it go?
Yeah, this picture.
And the best part about this is I get so many different shots of it. If it wasn't a live
Hmm.
photo, if I would have just take say I would have gotten one good shot of it, maybe it would have changed everybody's minds. But say I would have just got one good shot of it. This live photo got more than I could have ever hoped for because this is the furthest picture away of it. And
Yep.
you can see how big its body is and how big its wings are. And that's
Yes.
as far away as it possibly is. And I'll show you in this picture. So it starts from behind me on that tree side, but where the clouds are on the right side and that tree line above there, that's where it ends at. That's what, well, I say ends, but that's where the last shot of me getting it is over that tree line away. And the live photo only takes 3 seconds. And within 2 seconds, it's gone. It is instantly just, I don't know how to explain it, but
Like this
there's
photo
that
looks like
shot.
it looks like a dragon body with these big long wings coming down, like something off a Game of Thrones or something. You know?
I have, and I will tell you this. So the the people at Skinwalker Ranch, I was so excited that they even responded to me just to begin with. I thought that was so cool. But I sent them to George Knapp. George Knapp follows me on Instagram, and that was the
Oh,
highlight of
sweet.
my career because I have been following him for a very long time,
Yeah.
and I watched the documentary Skinwalker Ranch. And when I watched that, I was like, there's a book? Oh my gosh. Immediately got that from the Mid Continent Library. They're like, we're going to have to order that for you from somewhere else. I'm like, I will wait however long I need to, ma'am. And I'm going to keep it for a while. So um,
Yeah.
I read that front to back a couple times. And that really just inspired me because I'm like, you know, this man's been doing this for so long, and there's scientists out here at this place that are like taking their own money and their time to figure this out, and then to find out that they can never get any step ahead of it or step with it. They're always behind it, and that just fascinated me. And I thought,
Yeah.
wow, and so I sent the stuff to him, and when I sent this stuff to him, the first thing he said was that footprint that you got. He said that's intriguing. That was the first thing he said. He said that footprint is intriguing, and then he said, he thought the winged. I haven't. I think I sent him the other one that I sent you, but this one was just so good because I got so many shots of it, and it really did show, you know, like to me that looked like everyone's saying a manta ray or what Skinwalker Ranch they said a ropin. I don't know if you've ever heard of a ropin, but it is a
No.
cryptid.
Is it like a pterodactyl?
It's yeah, that's basically what it is a living pterodactyl, but
Yeah.
it resembles a bat a lot more, I feel like, than a dinosaur. Um, and that's really what I thought. But when you look at this picture, and that's what the guy said from the confessionals, the cone shape of the head. And that's what made me think pterodactyl because the, where's that picture? Hold on. I saved one picture so that I could show everybody. Because I'm not joking. I've looked at a million different pterodactyl pictures.
Yeah.
And the closest one I think of is like the bottom one, and maybe even the top left one too. But the bottom one seemed more reasonable because the wings, they might not be exactly correct on the wings, but the feet, they're far apart.
Yep.
You can clearly see like the hands and there's arms. The wings just seem shaped differently, but there's a beak involved, and that's what I feel like in the grass picture that's what's happening there is like I don't know if, and this is what's funny is like people talk about Thunderbirds, and people used to say, the thunder and the storms brought the birds, but someone said no, it was actually the birds that brought the storms and the thunder, not the
Yeah.
other way around. And I've learned so much about that. And then I didn't even think about that. I thought, oh my God, there was a huge thunderstorm right before we went on that trail. And that thing probably thought, ain't nobody going to be out here. I'm
Mm-hmm.
fine in this pasture right here. And then we walked up on it. I think maybe it flew away and it got up in a tree somewhere. We were disturbing it. I was taking pictures. I was maybe taking too long. And it was like, I got to get out of here. These people. And it flew off. And I just happened to take a picture the exact second it flies away. That's kind of how I processed that. But like I said, I didn't even know I took the picture until I got home that night. And I'm
Yeah.
gonna tell you, I was a little terrified when I saw it because I was like, "What is that?"
Yeah, I
Um,
guarantee it. Yeah, that would be to know that it was there and you didn't know it was there. It would be scary.
right.
Um, and I can see where people say manta ray if, but it looks like its body's going a different direction. But for people that are listening, it's in this particular image, it's like five pointed basically. Two back
Yes.
legs,
Yeah.
the arms stretched out, and this conical head in the front. But with these arms or wings stretched out, you can see that it looks like a membrane, like it's super thin.
Yeah, I wish I could get closer to it because when I zoom into it closer and you can see it a little bit, but you can see
It's like bat wings.
where the arms point, that
Yeah.
the webbing is thinner and you can actually see more light through the
Yes.
webbing.
Yeah. It's
That's what just trips me out because I'm
yeah.
like, that is something that is webbed, for
Yeah.
sure webbed. And like I said, say it's not a cryptid, say it's not a ropen, say it's not something crazy. What if it is a huge bat that no one knows about? Like, to me, I think that's so cool. I mean, this
It,
guy just recently discovered the turtle that everyone thought was extinct. I mean, stuff like that happens every year where people are finding things. So,
yeah. And that's
um,
still a cryptid. That still qualifies as like a hidden
right?
animal. That's what a cryptid is. It's a
I
hidden
love that
animal.
so much. It's just so exciting because I listen to these documentaries. I just I'm so inspired by everybody and all the interviewing that people do with witnesses, and to be all of those things at once was just like, whoa, like this is crazy. Like this is really it was neat. But to finish the rest of the trail of that story, so I take that picture, like I said, unknowingly. Um, and me and my son are walking on this trail and it's overgrown a lot. Um, and he's also noting that he's saying like, wow, like this is really overgrown. But let's keep going. And it was beautiful. Like, it was almost like a rainforest. And we had gone on the trail for just, I timed it because I now I record when I go down there, but it's about anywhere from like 4 to 6 minutes down the trail. There's a little spot where you can go off, and it's just a little tiny trail, and it leads to two little rocks and this creek area. And that creek was just flowing because it had just stormed. And when it doesn't rain, it's just the rocks. But this particular day, since it had thunderstorm, it was just flowing. And me and my son, we took off our socks and shoes. We've done this before on the Bethany Falls Trail, and it's a steep hill and it just goes straight down to the creek. But this one, you could just literally just walk off the trail and right into it. Um, and we love that because we had done that before, and that's just one of our favorite things to do.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, but I have this rule with my kids when we're out there, and I used to say it as a joke, but now the more that the more that I've researched, it's kind of not a joke. This guy at my work goes, "Oh wow," he goes, "I have my children scared of snakes on trails, but you got your kids worried about going into portals." And I was like, "Well, it's a joke, yes, but at the same time, it's not. When
Yeah,
you read the Missing 411 books,
exactly.
it kind of just changes everything. You don't really look at life the same. So, like I said, it kind of was a joke, but I have this rule where when we're all out on the trail, everyone is to walk in front of me. No one is ever to be behind me. And no one is ever allowed to be out of my sight. So if we are together, you are ahead of me, you are always ahead of me, or you are beside me and you are not out of my sight. So my son was loving this creek and he would walk down one way and he'd go, Mom, it keeps going. And then he'd
Mm-mm.
go to the other side and he goes, it keeps going this way. And I said, I know, we just came from this way. So you don't need to go down that way. You don't need to go down that way. And I said, and I know it keeps going down this way too, but we just need to stay in this little vicinity. We don't need to be going any much further. Um, and he was just having fun. And I love that because I would rather him be doing that than sitting on a game in
Oh
front of
yeah.
a TV. So,
Yeah, for sure.
you know,
And
I'm,
good
I'm,
move too. Just protect them as much as you possibly can. You
and
know,
that's why I feel like this is why I do what I'm doing, or why I like investigating this, because I've said this example before. We know smoking is bad and they have to put a warning on it, but people still choose to do it. So if you're going to be truthful with us, then yes, let us know about the dangers that we could face and let us decide if we want to go out there and face them. And if we don't, then we don't have to. That's why we have a city,
good
so that
point.
those people can stay where they want to stay. And there's people who connect with Earth and they want to be there. But people should know what's what's really going on, because
Amen.
I just feel like that, like I said, everyone knows drinking and smoking is not good for us. They do put warnings out there for us, but people still choose to do those if they want to. So I feel it's kind of the same thing. Um, so anyway, so we're on this trail and we're in the creek and we're having a great time. And I didn't download this picture either, but there's this picture of me and I'm standing on this rock and it's kind of rocking a little bit. It kind of felt like a surfboard. And like I said, he was kind of going a little bit too far for me, and I could still see part of his shoulder or part of his head, but I was not comfortable with how far he was going. And I kept telling him, my rule, please, please come back. And I didn't tell my son this, and it's not that I'm withholding things from him, but I feel like sometimes I don't tell him things because, for one, I don't want to freak him out, and two, sometimes I need to process things myself before I can share them with people because I don't understand fully what's happening. So, like I said, he's in a position where he's trying to keep going, and I'm saying, no, no, please stop. Come back. And I'm standing on this rock, and like I told this other guy, um, I know they were saying a word, but I didn't know what the word was. But someone whispered in my ear, and it was so close to my ear, and it wasn't a word I had ever heard before. And like I told him, I'm not saying the correct word or whatever, but it was just like they said, like, nah. But it was just like they said something to me, and it was just one word,
Hmm.
and I did a 360, and I just remember looking around and like going like, okay, I can't see anything, but I'm looking, and I know I heard somebody say something, and almost like it was like they were saying like leave, like,
Mm-hmm.
please go. And I had already kind of had that feeling of like we were being watched, but I didn't want to say anything. And I kept seeing these tree markers, and my son's always like, you think everything's a tree marker? And I'm like, but sometimes they are,
Right.
sometimes they're not. But I take pictures of every single one of them so I can tell the difference, because I've heard them say, you need to look for twists. If it looks like someone has twisted it, not just, and I look for those different things. And my son's slowly started picking up on it. Um, but the big X's that I keep finding, and I found several of those, and I can send you more, but I found tree bends too. And it's just they're the weirdest things. It'll be like two or three trees that are the same, and they're skinny. They're not big trees. They're like skinnier tree trunks, but there'll be like three trees next to each other, and then just one of them is just bent over, and it's not broken. It's just bent perfectly to where it's pointing in a certain direction.
Yeah.
And this is the first time I've ever seen a tree bend that I was like convinced for sure, okay, yeah, that's probably what that is. And it seemed like a marker to a spot where it's maybe like, yeah, we also don't go past here. But,
Hmm.
anyways, I have that moment where I think I hear something, and I'm like, well, we keep going on this trail. And I told you, turkey are very important. I don't know what it is with the turkey, but something with turkey and Sasquatch. And maybe it's because they're both coming out and it's like their seasons, because I've heard like springtime and fall time are like big times for them. So it would make sense that like the turkey and the Sasquatch would like be together. But every time that we see the turkey, we always have a Sasquatch experience. I don't know what it is, but like I
That's
told you, we
interesting.
saw Jerry and then we heard the monkey sounds. Well, this particular time, I wasn't recording, but we put our socks and shoes on. We done playing in the creek. We didn't play in it for very long. I was like, we need to finish what part of the trail we're going to finish now, so that we can get home. And we're walking, and Xavier goes, "Oh my gosh, mom!" He goes, "Look." He goes, "There's 5 turkey," and I was like, "What?" He goes, "Jerry has a family," and he's freaking out, and he was like, "You need to record this, record this, record this." So I'm like, "Okay." So we're recording it. I have that recorded too, but he was just so happy. He's like, "Look, Jerry probably has a wife and kids, and like, look at this. Jerry looks so happy." And we're so enticed with these turkey, and I'm recording it. And it was just such a great moment because we love that. We love going out there and like seeing the wildlife, because
Oh
sometimes you can
yeah.
go out there and you see nothing. You never see a deer, you never see a turkey, nothing. But when you do see it, it's just like it's a special moment. And I hit the stop button on my record, and I'm like, okay, let's keep going. And as soon as I turn around, my son's a little bit ahead of me, and he turns around. And I had this realization today that I think I know what it could have possibly been, because he said it was brown, but I think it was black. Um, it was almost as if whatever this was watching us watch the turkey. And I know that sounds kind of weird to say it like that,
Hmm.
but when we turned around to walk away, and it's right next to this tree bend where we saw the turkey, there was this huge black mass and it was standing. But it wasn't like, I wouldn't say that it was like what most people describe as like being extremely large, like 8, 9 feet tall. This mass was like a little bit above me and my son. So maybe like 6, 7 feet tall. But as soon as I saw it, and I can't tell you a face, nothing like that. I just know a big, huge black mass was upright, and then it went down on all fours, and it barreled. And when I mean barreled, it barreled like a train through this brush. And like I told you, that creek followed all the way down this trail. And where we had walked, the 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 hill went down to the creek. So whatever this thing was that was barreling through this brush had to have went down there and either through the creek or down the creek. But when it happened so fast, and then it just went silent. It was like and then just silence. And I stood there, and I tell you, all these people are like fight or flight. Oh, I'd shoot it, or I'd run. No, I was frozen. I could not move. I literally looked at my son and I said, "What the f was that?" And he laughed. He laughed because he was nervous, and he was like, I don't know." He goes, "It was something big and brown." And I said, "Well, I thought it was black." And he goes, "I don't know what that was, mom." And we stood there, and there was no sound. And I mean, no sound. And I felt like if it was that big, and we know we heard it, and we know we saw it, and we scared it, it was like we had literally scared the daylights out of this thing. It was like, oh my God, it saw me and it ran. And I don't know if bears do that, but this, whatever this thing was, it was out of there. And then I just thought it was weird that we stood there because, like I said, we couldn't move. I was terrified. I was like, I don't even want to finish this trail. And my son's like, "Oh no, now we have to. Now we gotta finish this trail." And I was like, "Are you kidding me right now?" All that's going through my head is big black bear, panther. I'm like, it had to be something big and black. And I'm just thinking of all these things. And the whole time we're walking and finishing this trail, I look back probably every 2 seconds, and I'm recording this thing the whole time, because that's when my son was like, "You are not allowed to be out here and not record, because you're going to miss this opportunity again if this happens." And I'm like, the
Right.
fact that we even had that experience to begin with is a miracle. But I will tell you that I I meditate sometimes, and I was really meditating out there in that creek, just being out there and just like I was sitting in the creek and I didn't care. I got my clothes wet and I was just like, just being one outside and just like trying to just think of positive things. And I don't know if that helped, manifest that moment, but to me, if, I can't 100% say yes, that was, or, no, that wasn't. But now looking back at the picture that I found and the footprints that I found and the tree breaks and the bends and the just everything, it all just like adds up. And it was like, could that have really been? I look at it as yes, and I want to be hopeful, but people are like, that is such a well populated area. Why would they be out there? It's like, why not? Who says that their rules, have to be eh, what we think that they have to be? They're
Right.
living their own lives.
And you brought up portals, right? So what's to say that they have to even habitate that area constantly?
One of my favorite stories ever, and I love this one, and I'll send it to you. I posted it on my story before our podcast, but this gentleman tells this story. He's a Native American or part of the Native Americans, and he tells this story about, I think he calls them the Almas. But anyways, he says, a long time ago there was three people on this earth. There was the big people, the Almas, and the little people. And the Almas are basically like, I don't want to say elves or fairies, but they're like those type of creatures. And basically, what this man said was that the Native Americans said that the Sasquatch lived up on the mountains, and so did the Almas. And when the the settlers started coming through, the Almas got very curious of the new trinkets that were coming across and all these new things that they had never seen before. And so they come down from the mountain and they come into the valley. And, they eventually have their fun and they go back up to the mountain. And the Sasquatch basically tell them, you know, if you're going to be involved with those type of people and those type of things, you are no longer welcome here. And basically, you are cast out and you are sent to the valley, and you will be in the valleys, um, because we will have no part of that. And I thought that was so funny because I thought, oh my gosh, Sasquatch are like the Amish people. Like they do that to their kids when they turn 18. They say, go out and do all the things you want to do. And you can do that if you want to, but if you want to live our life and our way, then you'll stay here, and you won't do those things. And I thought that was pretty funny. And then I just thought, they have their own rules and they have their own stuff, but I also feel like they have a pretty big I don't want that's a silly word to say, but it seems like almost like a contract of like, you don't interfere. I feel like there's a lot of that with extraterrestrial. Like, I feel like when they do interfere, maybe they don't want to be worshipped. Maybe they just want to help but don't want to interfere because maybe interfering doesn't help. Maybe it makes it worse. I don't know. But it seems like they try to avoid as much as possible. And I've heard all kinds of crazy things. This lady on one of the Missing 401 documentaries, which is probably my favorite one, was the Missing 401 Hunted.
Oh yeah, it's a good one.
People who have people hunters or tree logging people, they probably have the best stories ever because they are out there. They're like, I've been out there every day of my life for 40 years and I ain't never seen anything like that in my life. And so it's like, those people are out there every day, every season, seeing these things, or not seeing them. And then when they do have an experience, you're like, wow, that's a pretty credible witness because you know, they they know their area. And this lady told this story one time about how she was out in her deer stand and she was looking at the trees and she described it as, it looked like she was looking at saran wrap that was in the shape of a body, and it was, I don't know, have you seen that
Oh
one?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
it's good.
That part I was like, oh wow. And it was like she knew something was weird was happening, and I don't know, I know that her nephew had connected something with like a light that they had seen with the band. But to me, it was almost like, it was trying to move through. She was there. So it's like, did it put its vibrations up so high that, she couldn't see it? And then, it just, because she described it as like almost swinging from tree to tree. But it
Yeah.
was just like saran wrap. I thought, wow. So, I don't know.
Yeah, it kind of goes along with the predator kind of thing. Like it can cloak,
Yes.
hide
And
itself.
I've never seen that, but I people have described that to me and I
Yeah.
thought, yeah, that's pretty spot on.
Yeah, absolutely. So
So that
if
yeah,
you
that experience was, what were you gonna say? Sorry.
no, I was gonna say, uh you live in Missouri, right? So
Correct.
that's the home of Momo.
Yes.
It's a
Oh
very
my goodness. Very famous. And
very,
the Loch
very
Ness
famous.
Monster. I was just telling this gentleman that I did a podcast with a couple months ago. He was like, "You have a fear of water?" And I'm like, "Well, it's kind of hard to explain, but I have a lot of childhood trauma." And I said, "And I know you're not from the United States, and you're not from Missouri, but we have Nessie. And if people don't know, Nessie is my most people in Missouri's nickname for the Loch Ness Monster. And when I would go tubing at Lake Pomme de Terre, my mom would literally yell out the back of you know, the boat saying, 'Don't let go. You don't want Nessie to get ya.'" And it's like, oh my gosh, don't say that. That's terrifying because in my head I'm a kid, but at the same time I can't see in the water, and that was my biggest fear. I did not like going to the lake because I couldn't see the water and what was underneath it. So I'm just imagining all these things, and then my mom's telling me that there's a Loch Ness monster, Momo. Um, I've also I asked my granny. She used to live in Warsaw with my grandpa when my grandpa was alive. And once I started getting into this stuff, I asked her, I said, "Did you guys ever have any experiences down there? Because you guys were out in the middle of nowhere. Like you drive into the middle of nowhere and then you drive about 20 more minutes into the middle of nowhere." And she goes, "Do you not remember him telling Jake about the red-eyed monster?" And I was like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah." She's like, "You don't remember that?" And I said, "I kind of do, but not really." She's like, "Well, he mainly said it to Jake, but I think because Jake lived down there. So when my grandparents moved down there, my her daughter and her husband moved like a year after down there to be close to my grandparents. And they had a son. Well, he would run around a lot out there, and my granny said that he would always tease Jake, and he would say, "Better be careful out there. You don't want the red-eyed monster to get you." And I was like, "Oh my God, Grandpa used to say that to Jake." And she was like, "Oh yeah, she'd tell him all the time." And I was like, Granny, I said, I've done a lot of research, and I said, that's a very common thing that people describe when they're describing Sasquatch. I said, "Are you sure Grandpa didn't have like an experience?" And I thought about that. I thought, okay, my grandpa was like a really private person. He didn't like share a lot of his feelings and stuff. And what if my grandpa had an experience? And his way of telling the kids was to joke about it, but
Yeah.
it was almost like it's like a fairy tale, or the big bad wolf in the woods. It was like he was sending a message to my cousin in a way where it was a joke, but now looking back at it, I'm like, oh, I wish my grandpa was still alive, because I would be like, "You're gonna tell me the truth right now. Did you
Right.
see a Sasquatch?"
Well,
So
if
I
Mis- yeah,
yeah.
if Missouri has lake monsters, Bigfoot creatures, flying cryptids like pterodactyl like animals, um, do you think it would be from some kind of portal or time slip, or do you think that this is just like,
Did I send you the video? And maybe you might have seen it, and it's okay if you haven't, but I did a video. A friend of mine who's a photographer, he's like, "Hey, you know about that underground cave in your town?" And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Yeah." He's like, "This underground cave that's over here that has a fence all the way around it." And I was like, "What is it?" And he was like, "Well," he said I looked it up, and it says it's a science and technology school. And I said, well, that's interesting. So he then tells me that his nephew and his friends are they're kids, and that's what kids do. But he said they jumped the fence and they try to get close to the property, and sirens galore started going off, like big time. So they left. Um, and I just like tucked that little note away that he had told me that he was visiting in town when he was telling me this. And I don't know, for whatever reason, I just couldn't stop thinking about that. So I looked at it and I thought, oh my God, it's literally directly right across from Burr Oak Woods, like directly across from it. It's in the same area.
Mm.
So this cave, I called and I asked the guy because I'm like, hey, what's up with this place? And he said, oh, yeah, well, he said, we have hundreds of campuses all over the United States, and it's a science and technology school, but everything's online. There's no schools that you can go to, everything's online. And in my head, I'm thinking, that's kind of weird. I said, well, my son is really interested in your programs because they offer students who are in high school to take classes. It's like a whole other school, basically another school that you can do. And I'm like, so, what do you guys offer? My son really wants to know what those scientists are up to in that underground cave that you guys have out there. And the
Oh,
guy's like, oh, that's so funny. He said, yeah, that's not open to the public. That would have to be arranged if you were to go out there. I said, oh, well, that would be so cool if my son could, he just really wants to know what the scientists are doing down there. And I just thought that was kind of funny because I really did want to know what they were doing.
yeah. Well played.
But yeah, I thought that was funny. But what is weird is that I don't know how big it is. I don't know how long it's been there. I don't know how deep it goes. I don't know what they're doing in there. And so many people are like, is there a dumb around there? Like
Mhm.
that would be one of them. And I just made a joke the other day, but I'm like, whoever lets that pterodactyl out is probably fired
Yeah,
because
for
I
real.
got a picture of it.
Yeah, there's so
Um,
many more pictures too.
oh
Can
my
we look at
gosh.
a couple
Okay,
more of
yeah.
them?
So this one's the weirdest one. Okay, so because I found this one, I thought, okay, well, what else? What else have I maybe have gotten? And I never in my wildest dreams would have thought that I would ever have captured any. I thought this thing was weird. No. Wait till you see this, guys.
Yeah.
This one. This one really gets me because I cannot for the life of me, and I'm going to give you a couple of theories of what I think it is because for like I said, I this is its wings together.
Yep.
And you can see the body at the top. It's
Yep.
more round, and you can see its arms together. This to me just looks so unnatural, like beyond unnatural. Um, this to me looks like robotic. It looks so, I don't even want to say fake, but that's what it just looks like. It's like going like it's not even like a
Like it
like a
hinges almost like a
like it's
completely
just like
puzzle.
like
Yeah.
it's weird. I don't know how to describe it. So when I'm looking at this live video, just a little backstory so that everyone can kind of understand how amazing this is for me. My great grandma Goddard was a avid bird watcher. She documented every single bird she ever saw, basically from one point in her life until she passed away. She tracked birds for the Audubon Bird Society.
Hmm.
She was literally tracking birds for the society so they knew what birds were in their area. I'm hoping to go through these books soon. I don't know if this is my calling. This is something that is brought to me. I feel like that's what it is. And we talked about that before the podcast started about just my journey and where I'm going. And
Yes.
I just feel like this is like so like big for me and just my growth and just like finding my spirituality, all this stuff. But like whatever these birds are, I've never seen one. I've definitely never seen one in Missouri.
Look at the wingspan on that thing. Like it's an enormous wingspan. That low, long head. It's not a neck. It's just like a elongated head. Yeah, and that image there, it looks like
That's just
I don't guess you can see my cursor, but like in the middle of the wing, it looks like a little knot, almost like that would be where the hand is, and then it curves back down towards the bottoms of the wings.
oh
You,
wow. I never even looked at it like that. See, this
you
is
know,
why I'm so happy I do this and I reach out. I've reached out to so many people because I love listening to anybody and everybody's ideas because I want to grow as a person. And if I'm not open minded and I can't look at something differently, then I cannot progress further. And like what you just said right there, like I never even, I'm just too flabbergasted by this creature in general to even break it down.
yeah.
But I see what you're saying. Um,
Have you
so
heard of a show called Cryptids of the Corn?
okay, that's with like, is that with Tony and them? Or like,
Uh,
does Tony's friends with like that's a podcast that he's friends
yep,
with, right?
yep.
Okay,
Tony's had him on a couple times. His name's Justin England is the
okay.
guy's name. We're actually I need to reply back to him on Instagram too because we're supposed to be doing a show like 2 months ago. We've been bouncing it around, but the point is he's like a biologist or he's into biology real deep. He's got degrees in it and stuff. I think he would it would be beneficial maybe if you would get these images to him.
I would love that.
I
I've been
think
trying to reach out to some. I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. I took these to the Audubon Bird Society. I didn't even know this place existed, and that's why I feel like my grandma Goddard's like, she's like, I don't ever plan things. I let nudges of life push me here, push me there, and
I
it
got you.
always takes me where I feel like I need to be. Um, and I'm in this Audubon Bird Society, and it's this place has been it's this house. A biologist used to live there. He like donated the house to this Fleming Park. It's filled with every single bird book you could ever imagine, and rooms where you can view the birds. They have bird feeders and binoculars for kids, and just everything. It's amazing. But anyways, I took these pictures there, and this young kid who used to work for Burr Oaks, the park that I took these pictures, and not this specific one, but um, he was the only one that would talk to me. The lady, the bird society lady, she took one look at that and she did not. She was like, she didn't say nope, but she just didn't engage any further after she saw what I had. And I told them before I showed them, I said, I want you guys to know that this is not a hoax. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm here for research. And if you guys can give me any idea on what you think this could possibly be, um, I don't want to say I scared her, but it's like I feel like this person's probably been looking at birds their whole life, and I show them this, and I don't know what her religious views are or what her spiritual journey is, but I, I felt like she kind of didn't want anything to do with it, and I felt bad, but then like this young kid was like, "Oh my gosh, tell me more." And I'm like
Right.
telling him about my Men in Black experience that I had, and he was like, "Oh my gosh," he's like, "I have goosebumps." And I was like, "Dude, it just
Hold
keeps
on.
getting weirder at your park, buddy."
Hold on.
Yeah, the Men in Black one was the worst one.
What?
So remember
Okay.
when I told you that we decided that we needed to pick a different trail because that trail that we were on, we had a bad experience on, and we thought we should maybe try out another trail.
Yeah.
It's one of those moments that you have where, like I said, once again, you just rationalize absolutely everything, and you're like, no, 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 that's not what that was. Just wasn't what it was. Okay, so I'll tell you my story, but before I tell you, I'm going to tell you this. So we had this experience, and it took me a really long time to like process it. Like I said, I have to process what I went through before I can talk to people about things sometimes, and that was definitely one of them. I was glad my son was there, but at the same time, I know he was affected by it. But we both went through the experience, and then I processed it, and then I went on a podcast and I talked about it, and I thought, okay, like I've talked about it, you know, it's weird, um, everything's fine, and I'm just gonna move past it. Well, I get these winged creature pictures, and I contact this. lady at Flint Paranormal. She's like, you need to get a hold of Margie K. Margie K. She writes books on winged creatures, and they're analyzing my photos right now. But she's like, you need to get in contact with her. I couldn't get a hold of this lady to save my life. I was trying to add her on Facebook. I'm like, I'm trying to do anything I can to get a hold of this lady, and I couldn't get a hold of her. What? I'm like, I'm just gonna Google her and see if I can find like an email address. So I Google her. When I Google her, this article pops up. And like I told you, I had this experience and I thought I processed it. And then I find this article about this gentleman who had a very similar experience to my experience. And then it just made me, then I was like, oh my gosh, now I know, like now I'm not over it. And now I have to reanalyze everything that I went through again. But I'll tell you my story and then I'll read you his story because you got to hear his story. And that's what made that kid at that park. That kid was like, whoa. He's like, weird stuff's been happening since April. I said, yeah, since spring started, stuff started acting weird. He's like, yeah. He's like, all those people had all their windows busted out. And I said, yeah, I heard about that. I said, did anybody get their stuff stolen? And he goes, I don't know if anyone actually had anything stolen. He's like, but I know everybody's windows were busted out. And I said, yeah. I said, that was around the same time that I had this weird thing happen to me. And so I start telling him about it. But like I said, me and my son go out there all the time. We've been on that trail a million times. And I used to go out there with his dad. He's 13. And I used to go out there with his dad when I was a teenager. And so I know that trail like the back of my hand. Like it's just the trail that everybody goes on. It has these insane limestone rocks. They're huge and you can just jump on and climb up there and you can jump from limestone rock to limestone rock. I mean, they're just huge. It's beautiful. It's a long trail. So that's why we like going on it because it can take, a good hour we spend sometimes if we're just walking it. But our thing is if it's too late and it's getting dark, we don't do side quests. That's like our deal. But for whatever reason, that day I was like, no side quests. We're not doing side quests. And then we did side quests and we went down to the creek. We didn't put our feet in the creek that time, but we went down to the creek and then we found a side trail and he's like, well, we gotta figure out where this one goes. And I'm like, oh, of course we do. Why not? And next thing I know is pitch black. And my son was like, wow. He's like, this is like way, way different out here in the dark. And I'm like, yeah, I don't particularly like this and we need to get to moving. And we're getting close to the end of the trail, but not quite to the end of the trail. And when I say I go out there and like meditate, when we go out there and it's just me and him, uh, we just talk about anything and everything. And usually it's documentaries that I've been watching, weird stuff. Our big thing is what would Sasquatch do? That's like what we we talk about all the time. Well, what would Sasquatch do? Well, I would do this, but what do you think Sasquatch would do? And that's just like our big thing. But that particular day, and my son is, a walking witness to this, but I just had this thing where I was talking about Men in Black. I had watched Darcy. I think Tony was a part of that too. The Men in Black documentary is one of my favorite ones like ever. And I had just watched it for the first time and I'm telling him about it and I'm telling him about the Dan Aykroyd story and I'm like, the guy who made Coneheads, like we love that movie. And I'm just talking about this and he's talking about it. And we're getting to the end of this trail, but it's dark and we just happen to be talking about the subject, right? And we're coming down this hill. And at the bottom of this hill, which is getting close to the end, and I blame it because he was wearing black, but it appeared as if this man just literally spawned out of the ground. And like I said, it probably just took my eyes time to adjust because he was wearing all black. But this man starts approaching us on the trail. Like I said, it's pitch black. It is not a time to go on a walk. It's time to be leaving the park.
Right.
And the first thing I say out loud is, "Oh my God, thank God you're not Sasquatch," because I like figured out it was a person. And my son says something, and he kind of laughs or whatever. And this gentleman walks by us and he doesn't acknowledge us. He doesn't nod his head. He doesn't do anything that most people do on the trail, you know?
Yeah.
And it kind of looked like he had a headphone in, but I was too busy trying to focus on just looking at him. He was bald, um, a slender person. It wasn't bulky, but he was wearing all black and his clothes were just so form fitting. It was so strange. And I just remember thinking, how odd. Like, who goes at 8 o'clock at night in the pitch black wearing all black to go on a walk? I just
Nobody.
remember thinking that in my head. I thought that was weird. But I just told my son, I said, I think he had a headphone in. And, some people don't like interacting with other people. And that could be normal too. Like, that is very normal for a person to not want to interact with somebody. So I just kind of took it as that and just, whatever. And we continued to keep walking. And Xavier, my son, he just had this weird feeling and he turned around to look at the guy. And when he turned around to look at him, the gentleman was turned around and he was actually walking towards us.
Mm-mm.
And when the gentleman realized that my son was like, had acknowledged him and looked at him, he did this grunt. And I tell you, it was the most terrifying thing, but he just kind of went, ugh, like really
What?
loud. And like, kind of just like, you could feel that he was like going like that, like that. And my son said, F this. And he just starts booking it down the trail. He's running. And I had gotten this huge walking stick on the trail. Um, this other little kid had his stick and we called it our magic stick. And in my head, I'm just thinking, oh my God, thank God, like just don't freak out. Don't let this person know that they have scared you. Like, don't let them see you scared. Like, just be calm. And I'm freaking out in my head, but I'm just like, just be calm, just be calm, just be calm. We run to the car after that, after I get out of his distance. And there was one car in the parking lot. And my son swears that there was a lady sitting in that car. And because when we pulled up, there was cars, and I thought I remember seeing that car. And I do remember people sitting in all the cars when we got there, and like the windows were down. But when we went out there, the windows were up, and nobody was in the car. We drove by it because my son's like, I swear to you, Mom, there was a lady in that car. And I was like, it could be that guy's car, it could be that lady's car. I don't really 100% know, but we're getting out of here. I don't
Mm-hmm.
care. We're leaving. Um, it was just so weird. And I just remember thinking, we just rationalized everything in the car. And Xavier's like, you really think that was that dude's car? And I'm like, it had to have been Xavier. There was nobody else out there. Like, there was no other car out there but that car. Like, it had to have been that guy's car. And then it's just like Xavier's like, well, why was he out there at night? Like, why was he wearing all black? And we just kept like asking all these questions. And like I said, it was just a really weird experience. And I felt so uncomfortable. Like, as soon as he passed us, it was this instant feeling of like uncomfortableness, like just dread, and like you didn't feel welcomed or comfortable. And like I said, I know some people don't like interacting. Sometimes I don't like people some days, but it wasn't like that. It was just this feeling that I had. And when I read this story to you and I tell you what this guy said, that's what made me like go back and like think about it and think, oh my God, is that what we experienced? And as soon as that happened, like after that moment happened, it was then it's just so weird to think about it like this now, like replaying all this. But like, he basically forced us off that trail and put us on a different path that put us to the monkey sound, which then led us to the other path, which led us to the wing creek.
Oh wow.
It's all
Yeah.
kind of weird, but we love that trail. Like, that was our favorite trail. And we almost felt like this guy just like ruined it for us, like we
Yeah.
didn't want to go there anymore because we were afraid that guy was going to be there. So anyway, so I told you I went on the podcast, I processed it, everything was fine. And then I look up this Margie K lady because I'm trying to figure out this winged creature. And this is exactly what it says. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it says, oh, creepy Burr Oak Woods entity. That's the title of the article.
What?
So it says, I received the following email from a man in 2006, which I ran across today and thought it would be a good idea to post it on a blog for everyone to see. The next time you go out to Burr Oak Woods in Jackson County, Missouri, do not go alone. This email is in entirety with no editing. Hello, Margie. I live in eastern Jackson County. I heard your radio show today with you and those other ladies about ghostly apparitions and poltergeist activities and so forth. The show was interesting and thought provoking. I have an incident that happened to me about 5 years ago that I wanted to tell you about. I have told very few people about this. Two of the people I told since thought I was not telling the truth, or maybe I was seeing things and did not take me seriously. I was walking out at a state park called Burr Oak Woods, which I live near. It was very cold January day in 2001, and probably in the near 20s temperature wise. I used to take long walks in the woods, and I found it very relaxing. I was walking in some very dense forest in that park. After walking through a grove of big oak trees, I came into a clearing. Right in front of me was a man standing a few feet away from me. What was strange right away was I noticed that the man was standing with his back to me. I walked 2 more steps thinking that he would turn around and maybe say hello or something to that effect, but I immediately had a very strange feeling fall over me. I sensed that there was something terribly wrong. At that point, I wanted to get away from him as quickly as possible. So I started walking away from him, always facing him. I was really a little scared at this point because he had still had his back to me. I kept on walking backwards until I was about 100 yards away or so from him. All this time, he was still standing there with his back to me. When I got to what I thought was a relatively safe distance away from him, I put my binoculars to get a closer look at him. As soon as I got the binoculars focused on him, at that time, that's when he turned around and looked at me. Um, it was as though he knew I was looking at him with the binoculars. It was truly one of the most evil looking faces I had ever seen on a human being. With 2 bad knees, I took off running out of the forest. One other thing that I thought was really strange, it was very cold, and all this guy had on was a seemingly thin pair of slacks and a dark gray short sleeved t shirt. I remember the incident as if it were yesterday. Any thoughts or ideas on what this might have been would be greatly appreciated.
Wow.
Yeah. So then I read that, and I swear to you, I got goosebumps the first time I read it. I was like, are you kidding me right now? Like that, not that his exact situation happened, but very similar things happened to us. He didn't
Very.
acknowledge us at all whatsoever. Did not. It was like we weren't even there. It was when we acknowledged him, then he acknowledged us, and then he made it even more uncomfortable. Like it
Yeah.
was like that was what they wanted. Like that's what he wanted us to feel, was to be uncomfortable. And I told that guy that worked at that park, I said, have you ever had anything? He said, we've had some weirdos who, I'm not trying to be gross, but people said he has had people jumping out of the bushes, not clothed. They've had
Right.
weirdos like that. But I'm like, he's like, but that's not what you're not describing. That's a local weirdo who got arrested. Like this is not, he's like, that's not. I said, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I don't feel comfortable going to that park alone, and I never have, especially after all the things that I've been through. But I don't even know if I want to. I don't want to take my kids there. But then I'm like, I see this picture of this bird that's on the screen, and I'm like, I took that 2 hours away from my house. These things are everywhere. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter where we're at. Or everyone's like Skinwalker Ranch, or this place or that place. I feel like you literally take your camera and you go out in your backyard. That's literally what I've done. I'm like the most amateur person you could ever imagine. And I feel like I've captured some of the most amazing evidence. Like the videos, I wish I could play the videos on here. But the videos, if people could see how fast these things are going, like then they would truly understand, like, it is in a split second. Like our naked eye cannot see whatever these things are. To me personally, which someone said this at my work yesterday, they're like, I've been thinking about your pictures. And I thought that was funny because I love when I can implant a little seed in someone's head, and then they're like, they come back to me and they're like, so I've been thinking about that and I want you to know something. But she said, have you ever heard that conspiracy that birds are fake?
Yeah.
And I said, oh girl, you know me and my rabbit holes. Of course I've heard that. I said, And that's exactly what I thought of when I saw this shot of it. Not so much this one, even though it looks extremely unnatural. I felt like this, it almost made me feel like, I know it sounds dumb to say this because I'm like Tony. I just spew out things that, just hope it catches. But I felt like, if I was the military and if I were to be making drones, I wouldn't be making drones that look like uh like a like a craft. I would be making things that look like this, that look like a bird, that could be
Yeah.
debunked. That could be like, oh, it was just a bird. And, this thing's just flying around, just taking pictures of everybody and videos, like live videos of everybody, and it's going 1,000 miles an hour. It seems like I just don't. I just don't know how it's like the UFO phenomenon. It's like people are like, we cannot describe the speed. We cannot describe how it's moving, how
Right.
it's doing this, how it's doing that. I cannot for the life of me understand how these birds are going so fast. That's what's puzzling me the most. And that's why my camera barely caught it. And the weird part is I was so focused on catching this picture on the left side that I didn't even notice for a week that there was two birds in the picture and that this one was flying away and the other one was flying towards us.
Wow.
So this one was the one that flew in front of our car, which we never saw. I showed it to my mom. My mom's like, I would have remembered seeing a bird like that, Alex. I was like, yeah, I know you would have, but I just wanted to show you. And then this one was on the other side. I don't have that one blown up,
It just
but
looks massive,
I know. And then the far away picture of it, it's so blurry, but it's you could just still see how massive it is. And that's over a cornfield. So if you're imagining a stalk of corn and you just flip that bad boy on its side, I mean, whew, that's
Yeah.
tall. That wingspan is, and the wing to body ratio, that's what I don't understand. But I
Yeah.
do know that they said a lot like pterodactyls that they were really like just fascinated as how they could take off and take flight with their wings. And I wish I could have gotten one of them taking off, but I just
Yeah.
keep seeming to get them flying away.
See,
Um,
with something this size, it makes you think of like the condor, that bird lives out in California in the cliffs, and they have an incredible wingspan, like I don't know, 9 to 12 feet or some kind of craziness like that. But
do you want to know what Burr Oak Woods? Do you want to know what Missouri Conservation told me that that was?
what's that? Oh, this one here,
Mm-hmm. A
the
turkey vulture.
a turkey vulture.
They said, I wish I could pull up the email. I'll send you the email when we get off too. The email says, with how large the creature is, the best guess that we can come up with is a turkey vulture. I emailed them back and I said, I am more than glad to bring in these photos and videos for you to see. Um, I know what a turkey vulture looks like, and this is definitely not a turkey vulture. And
No,
they,
that looks like a man in a one of them. Okay, you know
I
those
know
guys,
that's what someone said, a wingsuit.
the
It looked like a man in
wingsuits.
a wingsuit. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what everyone they're like, "Oh, it's just a man in a wingsuit." And then when I show them the live video, when I like press on my live video and they watch it fly across, they're like, "Oh, well, and
Yeah,
I'm like,
it's
"Yeah,
not.
how'd that man do that?"
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely not a man in a wingsuit, but that's the general shape, you know.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
hope people just hop on YouTube and watch this one because this is
I
you have to see
know.
these videos, these pictures.
It's so cool. I'm
It
so glad.
is.
I really hope that they can see it because it is. I don't have the other one. There's this one shot that I have of it where it just looks so crazy. Yeah, it's not gonna let me play the
Man,
videos.
that's a shame.
I know it is actually. Um,
So ultimately, what do you want to come of this? Do you want people to come out and try to find this? Do you want them to uh just be aware?
I feel like being aware is a lot of that, and I think that's what David Politis is like his message is too. It's like just what does he say? He says there's like three things that you should take with you when you go in there. There's like this GPS tracker thing, a firearm, and something. I mean, he basically tells you like, you can go out there and you can do these things, but you need to be safe. And that's kind of
Right.
what I want people to understand. I mean, I see all these people walking on these trails, and I just think, do you even know what's out? Like, I think because people think that we're in such a populated area that we're quote unquote protected, or that this, because we live in the middle of Blue Springs, that doesn't mean that we can't have these things. And what I want people to understand is like, when people think of Kansas City, Missouri, which I know everyone thinks about us because of the Kansas City Chiefs, but like, you see the Kansas City area, but if you take a just a big old zoom out, we are nothing but forest, and we are nothing but just, like I said, woods. And
Yeah.
um there's this place called Monkey Mountain. I grew up in Grand Valley my whole life, and there's a place called Monkey Mountain, and in the B on the BRFO, and I've done my research, we are the top county in Missouri for sightings. And I'm not saying that we have the most sightings because that's what the BRFO said. We have the most sightings because people were courageous enough to tell their stories. But because we have the most sightings on, like I said, our county for the state of Missouri, and that's my county that I live in. And I
Wow.
know it's because of Monkey Mountain. For sure, it's because of Monkey Mountain. This picture that I was going to share with you, this is the first time I ever had a, what I would say, quote unquote, Sasquatch experience. And I didn't even know that I had had it till I had processed it later and thought back on it. And I was like, dude, that's exactly what that was. Me and this girl, Katie, we went to high school together. And I think it's funny now because I have experiences sometimes, and I feel like something blacks out my memory to like, maybe so that I can survive, or maybe it's too far out there that my brain can't process it, so it just stores it away, but it just like blacks it out for a period of time. I'm not really 100% sure, but I don't remember us leaving. I will say that. So I don't remember what happens after all this stuff I'm about to tell you, but me and her don't talk anymore, and I kind of wonder if something happened and she freaked out and I didn't want to remember that. I really don't know, but I also don't have the best memory ever, so that can't really be, proven to 100%. But anyways, we hadn't seen each other since high school. She was a photographer. You can tell she has her camera in the picture. I had my camera. She loved my work, and she's like, dude, I want to just go out and shoot with you. Let's go out. Let's go to Monkey Mountain. I'm like, hell yeah, let's go to Monkey Mountain. Let's take some cool pictures out in nature. And that's something I love doing. And so we went together. It was really, really lush out. So I think it was probably end of summer, maybe early fall. Um, but we had never been out there before, and we went to this part of the park where it's like a back entrance, like on an outer road outside of Grand Valley. So not a lot of people go to that entrance, and there was nobody else there in the parking lot. And so you have to walk quite a ways up this trail, and that's where I found a lot of weird evidence, like the bones. I found um, wild grown pumpkins that I've known from documentaries that I've watched, where they eat them or they throw them at people. We found like 20 smashed pumpkins one time, me and my son, and I remember thinking it was weird, and I took a picture of it. And then I remember I remember listening to that documentary about these pumpkins and these people saying that they were throwing pumpkins at them, and I was like, oh my god, it was right at the entryway. It's like, Xavier, what if the Sasquatch were throwing pumpkins at people? I was like, those were wild pumpkins. They weren't just like store bought pumpkins. Like, those grew out there, and somehow 20 of them were smashed up by the front where everybody pulls into park. I said, that's kind of weird. But at that time, I didn't put two and two together. And so we go out there and we get to this area, and you can see in the camera lens where we had set her uh, glasses was on this bench. Now, I thought this bench was also very strange because it looked like somebody had just taken it and literally just karate chopped it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how else to explain it, but it wasn't as if it was like worn to where it was like, oh, we just break little. Like there was parts of it was just like missing. Like someone was just like, Gah! And I was like, dang, that is very strange. And I'm gonna take a picture of that. So then she sets her glasses down on that part of the bench. And I said, oh my God, wouldn't that be so cool if you get on one side of the lens and I get on the other side of the lens and it's going to look like someone's watching us.
Yeah,
And
it's
I
sweet.
remember thinking that in the moment, but not even realizing that I'm taking a picture of how I'm actually feeling in the moment. We both felt it, but we didn't say anything. I just remember we shouldn't be here. We shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be here. You need to leave. And that's what I kept hearing and like feeling. But we didn't want to say it to each other because we literally had just walked out there. Like, this is literally 5 minutes after we'd gotten out of the car and walked to this little area. It's right at the beginning of the trail. And like I said, you can kind of tell it's not like a trail where it's like you can see everything. It's not always a paved path. It's sometimes the path just disappears and you're just walking around. So we're just at this, like I said, this little picnic table area. And we're not even 5 minutes after we're getting there. And we're just like, we need to leave. We don't belong here. This isn't our space. And we did. We left. And like I said, I don't remember leaving. I don't remember our conversation. I don't remember if she was uncomfortable, if we were just so uncomfortable, we just didn't talk. Like, I don't remember any of it. And I thought that was even weirder. And then I start having these weird experiences and I'm talking on this podcast and I'm like, dude, the first time I think I had a Sasquatch experience, and I did it. It was I told this guy one time there's like phases. It's like they use whatever vibrations they can to make you feel uncomfortable. And if that doesn't work, then they're gonna make a noise. Um, they're gonna throw a rock, they're gonna do something. And if you don't respond to that, then we're on site. Then it's the sighting. Then it's I'm gonna show myself because I've done all these steps to tell you that this isn't a good time or this isn't a good area for you to be in. And that's kind of how I feel that these things kind of work sometimes. I feel like
Interesting.
they give you plenty of warning. It's are you willing to take, like when my son was like, we need to keep going after we saw that one on that trail. And I remember thinking in my head, no, we should not be. And in his mind frame, whatever his mind was telling him was like, we need to keep going. He's like, I need to see where this ends. And where it ended was in this big opening with all these rocks. And what do we find at the top of these rocks up on this hill with all these white deer or white-tailed deer are running away is a nest, like a legit net. And my son goes, you keep saying all these nests and you keep pointing out all these things. And I never thought anything until I saw this one. He goes, now this one convinced me. And I said, and why did this one convince you? He said, because it's weaved together. I said, yeah,
Hmm.
I told you. I told you. Told you. Because he sees things and he's like, that's just natural, mom. And I said, you know what? It could be. You're probably right. I said, but I take pictures of all of them in case I'm wrong and it is something.
Now,
Um,
question:
yes.
this woven nest, would that be Bigfoot or would that be the giant birds?
Wow. You know, I wish that picture was so much better because of the um I want to know if it has like does it does it have hand like what is the pointedness?
Right.
Like are there do we have some type of like
I mean, a robin builds a nest with no hands, right?
and this one was on the ground, but it's like I'm trying to see. I guess they do have like I don't know if you call those fingers.
Yeah, it looks like
You
it,
get what
don't
I'm saying though?
it?
Like
Yeah, yeah. Like there's
but I
little.
feel like I said with this picture, I don't know how well it didn't even look like it could take. I'm not saying that it couldn't take off, but that's what I felt like that picture represented was like, was it sleeping? Like, how do they sleep? Do they sleep in trees or do they sleep like this? Do they sleep on the ground? I don't know. And I'm just so grateful that I'm such a curious, like that show Unsolved Mysteries is the theme song to my life because I just keep going down and down and that I never thought I would ever have stuff like this. You know, I like looking at other people's evidence and I get excited about their evidence, but I'm sitting here like, I took this. Like, this is something I did. And like, what if this helps someone discover something? Like, I've been trying to
Right.
get a hold of this Mr. Whitcomb. I don't know, this older gentleman, and that's what he does. He's dedicated his whole life to trying to find these things and writing all these books. And I know he's older, and he's probably in like his 80s, if not older. And like my life mission right now is to find Mr. Whitcomb. If anyone listens to this and they know how to get a hold of this gentleman, I would love to just show him these pictures, because I feel like this man's dedicated his whole life to a subject. And to be able to see something like that, I feel like would just justify everything that he ever did, you know,
Amen.
to you know,
Yeah.
he inspired other people, which kept this thing going, this subject going of, finding things. What is that God said? Something about, I heard it today. Everything that it exists. What's do you know what I'm
There's
saying?
there's nothing new under the sun.
Yes. Yeah. I can't
Yeah.
remember how it was said, but I heard that today, and when I heard that I thought, "Oh wow." I thought, I wonder what's out there. Like, that's
Yeah.
so neat. I've heard so many. There's this guy that I follow, and there's so many rabbit holes, but he talks about other planets and he talks about these other people, and he's like, they make these sounds and it sounds like they're singing and it sounds like they're doing this like religious thing. He's like, but I don't know how to explain it. And he's like, but they don't eat their animals and they're plant eaters, and that's just how they live. And I just thought, how crazy is that? And then, what is it? Charles James Hall, he talks about how like the tall white people, they don't care about the whales and they don't understand how humans have such affection towards animals. And he said something about how, which I understand, if they really are what he says they are, and that they're jealous of us because we can heal faster than them. They're taller, their bodies are different, and for what might take us a couple months to heal could take them years to heal. So basically how he described it was like, they take one look at an animal and they're like, I am not taking chances. And it's like Dana DeVito, I just started blasting. It's like
Right.
they literally, they don't want to take the chance. This guy's like, I'm milking this cow and this cow could literally just kill me at any moment, but it doesn't. And it's because of our intelligence difference. But he's just like, these aliens or these other species of people can't take the chance or the risk of that. And I'm over here like trying to find a pterodactyl. I mean, and those tall white people would probably think I'm crazy, but yeah, I just think it's yeah, I just really want everybody, like I said, George Knapp inspire me, Jeremy Corbell inspire me, you have definitely inspired me, Tony majorly. Like, just listening to your guys' podcast was such an eye opener, and I feel like I hadn't been listening to him, and then it just like popped in my life at the right time. And with all this going on, it just helped me to like, I don't know, to better. I was kind of having bad feelings about everything that was happening, but then I was listening, like I said, to your podcast with him, and I just have to try to take this message a little bit differently, because I was kind of getting a little worried. I was like, should I really be capturing, like, why am I the one capturing these things? I
Right.
guess why not me? But um it just seems very strange. And I hope maybe your audience can maybe try to, I don't know, I've had a lot of people that are just like, it's a fake, you're a fake.
Oh,
uh
this is yeah. You didn't catch anything fake.
I
That's
know.
for sure. That's for sure.
I have a
And
lot of people in the UFO community, which is fine because I feel like they have a big. It's either like you're into UFOs and everything else, or you're just into UFOs. It's like there's like two sides of that world, and I don't
yeah.
understand that. But when I show them this stuff, they're like, "Well, that's just a bird. It's just a bird." And I'm like, "Okay, well, Skinwalker Ranch said it might be like a roping," and then I got left on red, and I was like, "Oh, okay."
Of
I'm
course.
like, I'm sorry, it's not a UFO, but I did think I caught a UFO when I don't have the other winged creature that I caught, and I didn't put it on here because it was a little. The kid at the nature center said he thought it was something different because it does change shape, but it turns from like a spider to a scorpion. Um, and I don't know how to describe it, but then I have a UFO that goes across the screen, and then this like scorpion type thing starts coming down. He
Wow.
thought that one was, yeah, he thought that. I'll send those to you too. Like I said, I don't want this to go super long because I know podcasts are only supposed to be so long, but um,
Well, you had mentioned us doing like a 2 or 3 part,
oh
or
yeah, trilogy, yeah.
yeah,
We
I'm
said that's
I'm
only the
down for
best.
that. I'm
Well,
I'm
oh my
totally
gosh,
down.
no, thank you so much for taking the time today to listen to my stories and see my evidence because
Yes.
it's so cool to share it with other people that are interested in this stuff because I do want to let you know and I'll keep you updated. But next Tuesday, I am taking off work. I'm taking some PTO to
There you
go
go.
search for this flying creature. Flint Paranormal is located in Kansas, and they're a couple hours away. And it's a group of them, and they are actually coming out to Borough Woods to bring some equipment. They got some pretty cool stuff that we are going to do some readings and see what we can come up with, which I think is so exciting.
That is.
Um,
That's gonna be fun.
because they're very interested. She saw my picture. She's like, "You're a magnet." She's like, "We got to get out there." So I'm so excited to do that with them.
Yeah.
So hopefully, I haven't been back for a little bit because I'm hoping that maybe if I'm not out there for a little bit, that when I do go out there, maybe activity will be a little, they'll be expecting me. They'll be maybe, it might help with the vibe. Not
Well,
100%
I, next week on Tuesday, I'm gonna this is going to get released, later. I'll be back home by then, but I'll be stuck at a work conference, so have fun for me too.
I'm
I'll
excited.
I'll I'll pray a hedge of protection that that you stay safe, that you get to have your experiences, but that you just stay safe out there. But Shay, I have
Thank
thoroughly
you.
enjoyed this. I've loved all this evidence. It's very compelling, and I hope everybody gets on YouTube and just watches this. But where can they find you so they can see your videos and all that content too?
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite place is Instagram, and that's the only place that I post. My Facebook's like for my family, but it's ASHAE_photography. So it should read A Shae Photography. I'm a freelance photographer. I haven't been doing a lot of photography most recently. I've been too busy investigating. But most recently, within the last year, I've been posting memes and reels. I make videos from all the documentaries that I watch. So when I'm at work, I work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. And when I'm working and I'm making dentures and I hear something in a podcast that really catches my attention or something that I feel like everybody needs to hear, I will literally just take my phone, I will screenshot it, and it'll tell me the exact second of where it is in that documentary. And that's my secret to keeping up with this because I have 4 kids, and like I said, I work 40 hours a week making dentures. So it's not easy for me to get out and investigate. It's
All
not
right.
easy for me to keep up with posting. But I listen to all the stuff that I can listen to and everybody's podcasts, and I like just sharing that with people. So if you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going on Tubi right now and I'm going to watch that. I'm like, please do, because it's so good. And I just like sharing everybody else's work. Like a lot of the documentaries that Tony was involved with, I didn't realize until just like recently. I'm like, oh my God, that was Tony. This whole time I had no idea. I'm just listening to so many people's stuff and hearing so many voices like Darcy. I was like, dude, I've been posting your videos forever and like had no idea that it was you that made all of those.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
really cool. This community is so supportive, and I just really thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me.
absolutely, absolutely. We have to do it again. I want to hear
For
all your
sure.
stories. We'll listen. We'll do a 5 part series if we need to.
I love that. I love it.
But get you some rest. Go love on them babies. I know it's 12:30 at night, so I gotta go to bed too. So, but
Well,
have
thank
a
you
good,
so much for having me.
absolutely. You have a good night and God bless.
You too. Thank you.